Okay, so I'm going to give a quick overview of how to do data processing in Excel. It's pretty straightforward and it allows for a processing of all of your data really quickly. All you have to do is know the equation that you're using to calculate. That way you don't have to, instead of doing 50 calculations, you'll only have to do one calculation per column. Write the equation and then it'll calculate it for you. So as we can see, I have my data for my Gas Laws lab here. What I did was I varied the width of the container. I kept temperature constant and the number of particles constant, and I measured the pressure. So I have a column for the pressure in kilopascals, and I also have a column for the uncertainty in the pressure, which I wrote as dP. Usually we use delta P, but it's just D and delta are the same letter, basically. dP. I put 50 uncertainty for the pressure because we can see in that 10th place there's a lot of variation in the pressure here. So I want to give a best estimate and kind of a range of how much that pressure can vary. I'm approximating it as about 50 pascals. But let's start by just doing an equation. My pressure was in kilopascals and I need it in pascals. So I'm going to go to, actually I'm going to add another column, variation. Variation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to look at variation 1 and I'm going to click that tile here. All I'm going to do is convert this pressure from kilopascals to pascals. That's really easy. Once I click the tile, I press the equal sign to start the function editor, the equation editor here. And since I'm going to just be multiplying my pressure by 1,000 to convert to pascals, I click the pressure, the tile for variation 1, or the cell really, and then I'm going to do a star for multiplication, and then type 1,000. When I'm done, I press enter, and it calculates my pressure. That was only 100? Okay, if I need to edit a formula in a cell, then I go back to that cell, and I have to go click on the formula bar to edit it. And I'm going to change that to 1,000. So I guess it's good that I made an error there. I press enter. Now it is correctly giving my pressure in kilopascals. If I want it to calculate that pressure in kilopascals for all of these, all I do is click the bottom right corner of the formula, of the cell that has the formula, and I drag it down. And when I drag it down, it's going to change the values in each one. So this was B4 times 100. This is B5 times 100, B6. Since I drag down, it's going to increment all of the what is it? I guess it's the row number by 1. For the uncertainty in pressure, well, it's the same thing. To convert that to pascals, I again multiply it by 1,000. So I'll do equals, click it, times 1,000, enter. And then I click the corner of the cell, drag down. That's my pressure uncertainty. We would want to put this in scientific notation in our final data table probably, but that's that. Okay, what about my width in nanometers? That's in nanometers. I am going to need to convert that to meters. But let's look at my uncertainty in width here. And in fact, I'm going to full screen this so y'all can see this better, and let's zoom in a bit. My uncertainty in width is actually going to be the same in every variation because maybe I shouldn't have zoomed in. If you look over here, it always measures to the nearest tenth of a nanometer. So my uncertainty is always going to be tenth of a nanometer. So one thing I can do is I can just put 0.1 here. Since I have two cells that are exactly the same, I can select both of them, click the corner, drag down, and it'll just fill the rest in. To convert to meters, again, let's do nanometers. It's going to be nanometers divided by 10 to the 9. Is that right? It's going to be a very small number of meters. So 9.6 times 10 to the minus 9. Again, I drag and drop down. And in fact, since my formula for converting my uncertainty is the same as my formula for converting my width, I'm also going to drag to the right. Actually, it won't let me drag to the right, so let me try to drag to the right now. And When I grab the corner and drag to the right, it'll increment all of the columns by 1, so it'll increase the letter in my formulas. Okay, so one other thing that's important for our calculations is what if we want to put in a constant value? So, for example, when I'm calculating the volume, I know that it's going to be the width times the area of the base. So really I need a value for the area of the base in meters squared. And the area of the base, I believe, was 3.5. I have to write it as a formula, equals 3.5, and I'm going to do E notation. Actually, no, I'm not. Scientific notation. 3.5 times 10 to the minus 17 meters squared. That's a constant value. I'm going to calculate my volume for this first column using a formula, and then we'll modify it. So that's going to be width times the area of the base to get my volume in cubic meters. So we can't actually drag. Well, we can't drag yet. If we drag and drop down, I'm going to get 0 for all these values. Because the formula here, when I drag down, is going to increase H4 to H5, and it's going to increase H17 to H18. So it's gonna try and calculate based on this blank tile under the area of the base. So what we need to do is just add dollar signs in front of the value that we don't want it to drag past. So my H17, I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of the H and a dollar sign in front of the 17. Now if I drag and drop that cell, it'll change the H4, but it won't change the H17. Let's just check that it's doing H5 over H7 or times H17, H6 times H17, and so on. Looks like our calculations are correct. Are there any questions? If you know the formulas for your uncertainty calculations as well, you can put those uncertainty calculations in and calculate them in the same way you would do anything else in Excel. Thank you.